Mayor Fisk. My name is Ms. Uchimabwa, President of the Evanston Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, owner of Service Master Restoration by Sentiments. A couple of public service announcements before we get into the program. All visitors are welcome, but encouraged to wear your mask while not eating. Totally your call. We would also like to thank today our event sponsors supporting the event. North Shore University Health System, Rotary International, and the Evanston Roundtable. Thank you to the organizations who sponsored tickets for the AP Government students for Evanston Township High School. May all the students of Evanston Township High School please stand up? Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. A full list of the organizations sponsoring tickets is listed in your program. I would be remiss if I did not thank the Evanston Chamber of Commerce's new Executive Director, Garrett Carr. Garrett, please stand up. The Chamber had a bumpy year last year without an Executive Director, and the past board president, Mohammed, took on that temporary responsibility. Garrett started with us at the beginning of this year and hit the ground running. He is getting us organized, organizing meetings, creating systems, getting committees together, and really communicating with everybody. Thank you very much for all you do, Garrett. Also, some good news. Garrett has hired a new marketing and events manager, Brianna Gray. Brianna, please stand up. She starts with us next week. Thank you, Brianna. Next, I would like to introduce our speaker, Nikki Fernandez, Chief Nursing Officer at North Shore University Health System. Nikki Fernandez oversees more than 1,000 nurses at Evanston Hospital. She is a registered nurse with over 20 years of experience in administration at North Shore University Health System and Rush North Shore Medical Center. She previously served on the Board of Directors at Evanston Chamber of Commerce. Nikki?
I'm not quite as tall, so I have to bring it down a little bit. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Fernandez, the Chief Nursing Officer at North Shore University Health System, Evanston Hospital. I would like to extend best regards from Doug Silverstein, our president at Evanston Hospital, who is out of town today and sorry to miss this very nice event. After a 2-year pandemic hiatus, it is so great to be together today and reconnect with friends and colleagues. It's so nice to see the faces of so many of you without a mask. It would be an understatement to say it has been a challenging 2 years for so many of us, both personally and professionally. Managing 3 adolescent young men through high school and the college selection process, while overseeing the Evanston Hospital nursing team through COVID surges and staffing shortages, has resulted in more frequent trips to my hairdresser for some coloring. In fact, I just had it done prior to this event. A lot has happened with the North Shore since we met in person. Now part of the North Shore system is Swedish Hospital, Northwest Community Healthcare, and Edward Elmhurst Health. Together, North Shore Edward Elmhurst Health includes 25,000 team members and more than 6,000 best-in-class physicians. And as one united team, we have the ability to distinguish what we do in our region and create a national model for community care that's recognized for trusted and indispensable relationships and exceptional care. We all recognize how challenging the last 2 years have been with COVID, and we could not be more proud of our team members and our community partners in working to address the healthcare challenges brought on by the pandemic. Our North Shore team members really appreciate all of your acts of kindness, which have been truly inspirational and motivating in some of the toughest moments that I have witnessed in my 31 years of being a nurse. North Shore is proud to serve as a sponsor of the Evanston Chamber of Commerce State of the City Luncheon for the 12th year. As a former Chamber member myself, I would like to thank the Chamber Board of Directors, and especially Garrett Carr, the Chamber's Executive Director and his team for putting on today's lovely event. Evanston Hospital values the important role the Chamber plays in the community. Thank you also for the Chamber's leadership in addressing many social issues of the day, including racial disparities and inequalities. We recognize that it is important to connect with our community and are so proud of the numerous partnerships and great relationships we have with so many of you who are here with us today. North Shore looks forward to partnering with you as we expand our own diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Together, we all need to work to reduce and eventually eliminate health and economic disparities that have existed far too long. In case you have not heard, North Shore and Edward Elmhurst Health have each committed $100 million to their respective communities. These funds will generate several $million annually to enhance health and well-being, advance health equity, and support local economic growth. Our aim is to be a true catalyst for change, putting our talents, unique capabilities, and resources to work by collaborating with like-minded local organizations for the benefit of our communities. Our initial investment provided $2.6 million in awards to 7 organizations. Specific to Evanston, awards were given to the Ox of $500,000 to support the creation of a brand new hub for startups and small businesses centered around holistic wellness, uplifting Black entrepreneurs and generating local job creation in Evanston. And $200,000 was awarded to the Aspire Community Healthcare Workforce Development Program to support the City of Evanston's launch of a new workforce development partnership that creates a pipeline for students and young adults in Evanston and surrounding communities to explore careers in healthcare. We are so very excited about this one. Working together with many of our community partners in the room today, the program aims to provide a breadth of opportunities, including early exposure to healthcare roles, job shadowing, internships, financial support, certification programs, and more. This summer, the program will be offering more than 50 internships in a range of traditional healthcare, information technology, and hospitality roles. To magnify and accelerate these efforts, the City of Evanston matched North Shore's contribution from their American Rescue Plan Act funds of $200,000, which was then matched with a very generous donation from the Finnegan Family Foundation of $200,000. A special thank you to the Evanston City Council for supporting this very important initiative. So we're just getting started with the Aspire program, and the potential is tremendous. And the Finnegan Family Foundation has already committed $200,000 of matching funds for next year. So thank you so much. And before I introduce the mayor, I think it is important to mention that as we have all gone through this pandemic, we have reached our own pandemic, which has extended to a level of national crisis. Some of us may have suffered ourselves, or have seen our loved ones suffer. The pandemic I'm referring to is mental health. The more we can do together to support one another and speak up, the more help we can provide to the citizens of the Evanston community. Well, you're definitely not here just to listen to me today. You are here to hear our Honorable Mayor's State of the City address. Since elected, Mayor Fisk missed the first State of the City address in person due to COVID. So I could not be more thrilled to introduce him to all of you today. On behalf of North Shore, we would like to congratulate the mayor on continuing to do a great job for all of the citizens of Evanston in this remarkably challenging environment. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Evanston's Mayor, Daniel Fisk.
Well, good afternoon. This could be rough. Let's try that again. Good afternoon. All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Nicole, for the generous introduction. Thank you to North Shore for not only your sponsorship of this event, but your partnership with the city. That workforce development initiative you talked about is really striking at one of the key objectives that our community needs to see addressed, and we appreciate that partnership a great deal. Thank you so much, Ms. Lisa. Thank you to the chamber, the board, and the staff. Welcome, Garrett. I've learned that coming on as the head of an organization during a pandemic is not necessarily and definitionally the easiest task known to humanity, but we are so glad you're here and up for it, and welcome aboard. And thank you for giving me the honor of participating in this event. It is, people who are around me a lot are bored to death of hearing me say this, but you're not going to have your wish of having me stop satisfied anytime soon. It is so delightful. It is such a gift for us to be together in person. Thank you so much for doing all you have done across this community to make this something that we can safely and responsibly do. It really lifts me up in a way that nothing else does. I'm doing this from sort of scanning the room. So there is an opportunity for serious trouble to occur now. But I would like to shout out and ask to stand and be recognized the elected members of City Council who are joining us this afternoon in numerical order of order. There's no favoritism opposed here besides that which those who drew the last map 20 years ago imposed with their number choices. In order of order, I would really like to thank not only for being here this afternoon, but for your steadfast partnership throughout these difficult times. Thank you for being here, Claire Kelly. Peter Braithwaite. Jonathan Newsman. I saw earlier that I'm not making eye contact with Bobby Burns. Devon Reed. And Juan Hedekaitis. I also want to recognize former elected officials who are with us. We have here two former mayors. First of all, sitting right here in the front, Jay Lytle. Jay told me earlier that this event began during his tenure as mayor, so I feel a special responsibility to live up to that legacy. And Steve Haggerty. Former council member from the 4th Ward, Don Wilson, is here. From the 5th Ward, Robin Lou Simmons. And from the 7th Ward, Jane Grover. Now is the awkward part where I'm about to get in trouble for moving on, even though I surely left somebody out. I'm sorry, I'm the worst. I want to say a tremendous thank you to our staff. I kind of toyed with the idea of introducing by name every member of the City of Evanston staff who is here. There are too many to mention by name, but I want to say how extraordinarily difficult it has been to work in municipal government during the course of the pandemic. It's hard to be a human being during the pandemic. It has been very, very difficult to work in any environment during the pandemic. But municipal governments in Evanston and everywhere else were instantly hit with massive revenue declines that meant that the number of people available to do the suddenly much more difficult, and in some areas like health critical jobs, shrunk instantly. So we have here today a tremendous number of our team members. I want to start by recognizing our interim city manager, Kelly Gendersky. And I would like everybody else who works for the city of Evanston to stand up, and I want you all to join me in giving them a giant, giant round of applause. Thank you. Finally, thank you to the Palm House. What a lovely environment they've created. What a lovely new addition to our community this place has really become. So thank you so much for your wonderful hospitality. Finally, I just want to flag for you that this is a zero waste event. It was made possible by the Evanston-based Collective Resource Compost. And compost, for those of you who don't know this, and I learned this more recently than I maybe want to admit, composting is a climate issue. Because when organic material is not diverted from the landfill, it turns into methane there and contributes to climate change. And so diverting organic material from landfills through composting reduces greenhouse gases. I want to thank Collective Resource Compost and their founder and owner, Erling Howard, for once again this year donating their services. Last but not least, I want to thank both Rotary and the Evanston Roundtable for your sponsorship of this event and making this afternoon possible. All right, you can stop clapping now. It might be polite to clap at the very end. That's sort of your call. We'll see. I've been the mayor for a year. It has been an incredible education, a remarkable journey. There have been times of real joy, times of real pain in our community, times of you'll be shocked to learn frustration, even. But as I prepared for this afternoon, it was actually a very healthy exercise for me to go through in reminding myself of how much we've done during the course of this year. I want to start by, in the same vein as what I said about our Evanston city staff's remarkable work, I want to name just a few of the awards that these folks have won for their work on behalf of our residents just in the course of the last year. Evanston was recognized as a 2021 All-America City. This is an honor given only to 10 U.S. cities in the country, not the state, not the county, in the country by the National Civic League. And then we were one of 10 cities that achieved the What Works City certification, which is a certification given by the Bloomberg Project specifically for exceptional use of data in municipal government. And by the way, the other cities that they give that recognition to tend to be way bigger. Way bigger. And so we're really punching above our weight in this area. We were given by the Institute for Sustainable Infrastructure their Envision Verified Award for the Clearwell Mine Replacement Project. Our downtown farmers market, which is obviously a beloved jewel of this community, got literally more different awards than I have time to name. And our Public Works Department keeps getting awards, most recently an Excellence in Snow and Ice Control Award from the American Public Works Association. So once again, give our team a shout out for, in these difficult times, not only making it through, but really excelling in all these different areas. We've also made a lot of progress on some of the issues that I think are of most significance to this community and beyond. I want to start here. During the course of the past year, something that I believe will be of broad historical significance well beyond this community's borders occurred, which is that the first 16 recipients of Evanston's Restorative Housing Reparations Program were named and have begun to receive their benefits just in the last few months. This is it's all right to clap for that. I'll allow the exception. This is something that has been a long time coming, again, not just in this community, but in this country. This is a small step by any measure. The specific support that these 16 individuals received was small by comparison of the harm that was done to them in Evanston's Black community. There is plenty more work to be done. And of course, the number 16 is itself a small step, and yet, the demonstration of our capacity to take that tangible step and make the promise to own our responsibility for repairing the harm that we have done. It's a game changer in terms of what expectations we have now set for ourselves moving forward, and what kind of bar we've set for other communities that want to truly grapple with their past, not only complicity in, but advancement of institutional racism. I think this is a good opportunity once again to thank Robin Simmons for her remarkable leadership. We would not be here if not for you. We would not. We would not. Something else that we've been working on, this is again a partnership with a lot of different institutions, really starting with Northwestern University and some funding that they provided through their contribution last year to the Good Neighbor Fund. We are on the precipice of launching a guaranteed income pilot here in the city of Evanston. Now this is a very, very fast growing movement across the country. The city of Stockton, California was kind of the Evanston of guaranteed income. They embarked as a first in the country on a guaranteed income experiment, really, just a few years ago, not so long ago. And the theory here, which is going to sound really radical and confusing, so I'm going to say it slowly. The theory is if there's a population or community that is experiencing economic hardship, one thing you can do to make it better is give them money. That's the theory. And that theory, unfortunately, after a 40-year assault, has started to feel radical. A 40-year assault led by Ronald Reagan and his racist reference to welfare queens. The whole idea was, well, the last thing you can do is trust poor people with money. We'll set up complicated programs that are hard to qualify for and complicated to navigate and may help with a little bit of housing here or a little bit of food there, but God forbid that we just trust people with a check. And that insidious, empirically wrong and frankly racist idea made its way into the American bloodstream so extraordinarily that now the idea of solving economic problems experienced by people in serious economic hardship by writing a check feels radical. Well, guess what happened in Stockton? Those financial contributions were life-changing. They were life-changing in their outcomes when it came to health, and outcomes when it came to ability to maintain employment. All of these other things got better when you solved the root problem, which was people didn't have enough money. So we are now, thanks to partnership with Northwestern University, partnership with the Evanston Community Foundation, we are now on the precipice of launching one of these programs of our own, using also some federal money that we received as a part of the pandemic recovery. And thanks to Northwestern's help, we're going to be studying this in a really meticulous, scientifically valid way. So when we come out the other end, we will have all the data we need to justify the decision of what to do next. And I'm guessing that decision is going to be, we got to keep on doing this because I'm betting it's going to change lives. So thank you, name Saul Anderson, by the way, from the Evanston Community Foundation for your partnership on this work and on the reparations work. Thank you so much for that. We were able, even in these economically difficult times, to pass a balanced budget and to see our general fund balance begin to grow. So it is never easy to deal with municipal budgeting. It's never going to be simple. It's going to be a long time before everything is just completely out of the woods, but we are making significant progress on our fiscal challenges. And there's been one additional part of that that I want to specifically name. When President Morty Shapiro arrived in Evanston back in 2009, he made the determination that Northwestern would contribute a fire engine to the city as a show of goodwill and a show of the kind of relationship he wanted to establish with the city. And now in his last year as president, Morty has made the determination that Northwestern would do that once again. And so today we have support from Northwestern in and above whatever other resources were coming in through our city finances to buy an additional, much needed, critical for public safety fire engine. Thank you, Morty, for that. I have some bad news though. So many of you know this now kind of famous bit of Evanston lore. But back in 2009, Elizabeth Tisdall was elected mayor, and Morty Shapiro became Northwestern president around the same time. And the relationship between Northwestern and the city of Evanston is very important and has perhaps historically been difficult. And in an effort to set that partnership on the right foot, Liz baked a batch of cookies and brought them to the president's house. And that was, I actually haven't been able to calculate the return on the investment in flour and baking soda to get a fire engine, but I think it's really, really solid. And so, like any committed public servant, when I made the determination to run for mayor, I conscripted my younger kiddo into a really, really rigorous regime of baking practice. And we baked and we baked and we baked, knowing that one day the time would come that we would have to bake a batch of cookies and it had to be good enough to turn into a fire engine. And the bad news is that my kiddo then went and became a vegan. And look, it's the right way to be, and I feel a certain amount of guilt that I'm not joining them, but when it comes to baking, it's a really a rough road. And so, so I kind of gave up on that approach. But when your successor, Becky Blank, who's the chancellor of Madison, was named, I did go up there, brought some chocolate from a Evanston establishment, non-vegan chocolate from Noir de Bean, and I think our relationship is off on a good foot, and I'm looking forward to building on the partnership that you have thrown so much of yourself into to ensure that we live by the basic credo that ought to govern this relationship, which is that Northwestern doesn't thrive if Evanston doesn't thrive, and Evanston doesn't thrive if Northwestern doesn't thrive. And we have to forge a path forward that ensures that we both thrive simultaneously in a way that lifts each institution up. The next thing I want to make mention of is something I started off in the beginning. This pandemic has taken a lot from this community. It's taken a tremendous, tremendous toll on this community. We've lost many Evanstonians, including them recently. It's had a huge mental health toll. It's had a huge economic toll. It's had a huge social toll. But I do think it's important to say that our Department of Health and Human Services, in partnership with the entire community, has done a truly remarkable job. And as someone who looks at the data on this on a regular basis, the data of what's going on in Evanston are simply more encouraging than our neighbors, including our close neighbors just around us. And so I just want to thank not only our team internally, but the whole community for your vaccination rates, which are literally unbelievable to people in other communities and have absolutely saved many lives, to your compliance with the basic regulations and mandates that we impose. We have been cautious and data-based in imposing mandates and in lifting mandates, and we don't always do it in a way that makes literally everybody happy, but we have seen such compliance that it has really kept people alive. So I just want to thank everyone for being a part of that and acknowledge that as we are here, me with one of these, and many of you wearing them as well, we are not out of the woods. We were as recently as last week in a high transmission category here in Evanston. Those numbers have tamped down a bit. We're now in a medium transmission category. But continue to be vigilant and cautious. And if we continue to be cautious in a kind of measured and, let's say, kind of balanced way, that is the best tool to make sure we don't have to go back to the more draconian restrictions that have really been so very difficult for many people to endure on a kind of psychological, mental well-being level, as well as, of course, economically. So on that point, I want to say a bit about the economy because it was jarring to see the impact of the pandemic on our retail establishments, on our business districts. It was an incredibly difficult road for these institutions. And there are really important glimmers. There are important glimmers, and there's a path to a kind of a downtown and other business district recovery that we can see, even in some of the revenue numbers that we track on the city level, but also I think will begin to be visible on the street. The movie theater downtown will be reopening in a matter of really just a few weeks, which is obviously a key anchor for our downtown. The City Council, with very enthusiastic support, is supporting the North Lake Theater in their effort to come back home to Evanston, something that is so culturally critical, but also economically really could be a tremendous driver for our city. The city joined some of the other partners you heard about earlier today, such as North Shore, in our support of the Ops, an institution that will be a home for African-American entrepreneurs in the wellness space, really critical, simultaneous way to address our racial justice, moral responsibilities, and our economic development objectives. And we're just embarking on downtown kind of planning efforts as well to kind of expand on these successes. One thing that's critical for our business districts, and that I believe is the most difficult question that is facing our community, our city government, and our elected officials, is how to manage our public safety challenges. On so many issues that we hear about, we get a lot of communication that is pretty aligned. We hear a lot from a lot of residents who all kind of want similar things when it comes to climate or racial equity or economic development. But when it comes to public safety, our community is still trying to figure out where it is. My first act as mayor was to create a Reimagining Public Safety Committee to help us rethink these issues. And that committee has come up with exciting recommendations that are still in the process of implementation and discussion as we go through the staffing changes at the senior levels of the city. Those meetings are ongoing, trying to figure out what it looks like to learn from the move toward real reimagining of racial justice of the last few years in terms of how we rethink our provision of public safety. At the same time, let's be honest, there's been an increase in violent crime across our whole country, our whole country. And that leaves people very concerned for their own safety, concerned for the trajectory of the community, and concerned, frankly, for the economic vitality of the community. And the thing that worries me the most is that some of the communication that I get seems to suggest we've got to choose. We've got to choose between safety and racial justice. Or we've got to choose between safety and building a new kind of strategy around what it means to provide for public safety that's more rooted in alternative responses. And I think the literal opposite is the case. I think this is a moment where we need to find collaborative paths forward, where the only path to success is at the table with the extraordinary men and women in our police department, and simultaneously with activists who are pushing for change, understanding that there is no racial justice without safety, and safety without racial justice doesn't even mean anything. I know there is a successful path there, but I want to be honest in saying that we haven't yet structured the discussions in a way that maximizes the likelihood of us getting there. And as I think ahead to the next several years, that strikes me as pivotal a responsibility as we possibly could name. I do want to name one critical success in this area, and that is something else that the city has committed federal funding to, which is the creation of a living room. There was a mention, Nicole, of the mental health epidemic, which is unbelievably severe. It is unbelievably severe. It is heartbreaking inside of families. It is heartbreaking out in the community. And it is imposing on our police department a set of tasks and requirements that is an unreasonable expectation to place on them. One that they simply could not possibly be asked to perform. It happens all the time that a 911 call comes in, and the problem that's occurring is someone's experiencing a mental health breakdown. And so police officers are sent, irrespective of the fact that they don't have an LCSW, a psychiatry degree, a psychology degree. Instead, police officers are sent because that's who there is. And then there's not necessarily anywhere to take folks, and so they wind up being taken to the emergency room, which is, again, not usually equipped to address the mental health crisis that's being experienced. And so after the person is stabilized and is no longer a threat to themselves or others, they're released again, they go back home, and the cycle starts again. It's an absurd use of resources, and it's an inhumane way to address the problem, both, again, inside the family where the crisis is occurring, and in the broader community where the public safety challenge is felt. And so the living room is a really, really successful model. It's been deployed for a decade in Skokie. It's simply a place where people are brought with peer support, professional help to de-escalate, stabilize, and then be connected to the many resources they need, mental health resources and other forms of supports, whether it be housing or job training or nutrition support, to actually put people on a path to real solutions as opposed to just allowing the cycle to continue. I want to introduce on this front the living room's lead partner is a mental health provider called Turning Point, who does extraordinary work. I also want to introduce one of the many other partners they're working with. We have here with us the brand new Executive Director of Peer Services, Jennifer Kohler. Many of us knew and loved Kate Mahoney, who really built that organization, was a great, great friend of mine, and she was replaced in the last several years by Maureen McDonald, who also did an extraordinary job. And now we have on board Jennifer Kohler. Welcome to Peer Services and welcome to the We've had some initial successes in affordable housing, creating a new transit-oriented affordable development in the 3rd Ward in what used to be an underutilized surface city parking lot. We're beginning to talk about the broader efforts on zoning that I think will really unlock incredible affordability opportunities for our community. We've made progress on climate, securing a $500,000 grant through our partnership with Senator Durbin to facilitate installation of solar panels on low-income households here in Evanston, declaring a climate emergency just a few weeks ago, and committing to a series of concrete steps that we're going to carry out in compliance with our climate action and resilience plan. So we've done a lot. But I want to stress that it's also been a difficult time in some really, really important respects. I've been mayor for less than 2 months when I discovered, along with the rest of you, about unspeakable acts of abuse that had occurred on our lakefront. Learning that working for the city on the lakefront was not safe. Learning that when women came forward to talk about that, they weren't given the relief they needed or treated the way they were to be treated. And that realization was really, really a painful one, I think, for all of us across this community. It was hard to come to grips with, it was hard to grapple with, and it sent shockwaves across not only our whole community, but across our organization. So I'm really proud to say that we have taken this ugly and grotesque crisis with the seriousness that it deserves. Bringing in an independent firm to do a thorough, complete investigation. That investigation led to a scathing report that we've made public. It also led to a lot of recommendations, 9 different areas of recommendations, and we are going to follow all of them. We're going to leave no stone unturned in making this right and addressing this. history, those acts, those inadequate responses are something for us to be truly, truly, truly sorry for, and for us to do everything we can to repair. But they've also created a kind of a domino effect. And there's been since then a tremendous amount of turnover at the city. There's a tremendous number of people in interim positions, and a tremendous number of new people coming in, and a tremendous amount of change occurring in the city. And to the extent that what occurred on the lakefront was what triggered that, it is something to be unbelievably upset and frustrated and angry about. But I don't want that frustration and anger to bleed into feeling like there's something wrong with all that turnover happening. That turnover means that there is change coming to the city of Evanston. And it is essential that change come to the city of Evanston. I want to point out that we have here a new mayor, but not just a new mayor. We have a new city clerk. We elected last April 4 new members of city council. And since then, another new member has joined the city council. And so all of that turnover is a mandate for change. And what I would say is very, very simple, that if we don't see significant change in the city, that's a failure of democracy. Because again, the election was a mandate for change, and so democracy demands that that change occur. And so we are doing a lot to try to think creatively and critically about how to make improvements in how the internal operation of city government goes. It's well known that there's a new city manager search going on. I think our interim city manager, Kelly Vandersky, is probably the most enthusiastic person to see that search come to a resolution. Thank you, Kelly, for stepping into the breach and doing an impossible task with real grace. But it's important that that search resolve, and that we have a new leader to go with our new council and begin to make the kind of broad and sweeping changes that have been talked about. I know that at this late part of the speech, it's kind of weird to say the world's least kind of dramatic words. I know that the phrase, "we created a committee to think about the budget," is the, you know, I mean, even Claire Kelly, who created that committee, is falling asleep right now. I heard me say the phrase, "we created a committee to think about the budget." But we created a committee to think about the budget. For the first time, there's now a Finance and Budget Committee of the City Council to make sure that we have proactive, early, real budgetary collaboration and oversight. We're changing the legislative process in the city government. Again, nothing is less interesting than changing legislative processes. I'm not going to get into the details, but our goal is to make it transparent, to make it efficient, and to make sure that ideas that come from anywhere get an equal and fair hearing in front of this newly elected city council. I want to do one last introduction. We're also on the precipice of having a vote to create a new election system that I think will be beneficial for our whole community because of the kind of approach to governance it will incentivize. Elisa Kaplan, an Evanstonian, is here as the Executive Director of Reform for Illinois, a statewide, really respected reform organization. And together with Fair Vote Illinois and others, there's been a real movement to move to a ranked choice voting system to ensure that our elections generate elected officials who have broad support and the ability to forge consensus together. I want to give a shout out as well to Councilmember Hadakaris, who's just been appointed to hitting the ground running and really championing this initiative, hopefully coming soon to a referendum ballot near you, and an opportunity again to really reflect on what's the best way to design a governance structure that will give us the outcomes that we want as a community. I want to end here. Our city council meetings don't necessarily all need to go into a museum. They're not always beautiful, they're not always short, they're not always festivals of unanimity. They can be difficult. Don Wilson's smiling. Don Wilson remembers a lot of festivals of unanimity. Blues on council. But here's what we have on this council. And I say this advisedly, knowing that there are a lot of people in this room who may not agree with what I'm about to say. And asking you, if you don't agree with what I'm about to say, to think carefully about why we don't agree. We have 9 people on this city council who ran for office for one reason and one reason only, which is they want to make our community better. They don't always agree on how to do that, which is healthy and good, and I think a council that always had unanimous votes would be an unsuccessful council. But they are all there because of a deep commitment to donate a ridiculous amount of time to make our community better. I know that I'm speaking words that sound like platitudes, but I used to be in the Illinois legislature. I know about elected officials who aren't only there to make their community better. I know how they operate. That's not what we have here. What we have here are 9 people who are really dedicated to the betterment of their community. And what we have on our city staff are 800 people who are dedicated to the benefit of this community. And what we have in Evanston are 78,000 people who are dedicated to the betterment of this community, who step up and show up and make their opinions known and want to be at the table to push us to do better. Y'all, that is a remarkable asset. That is a remarkable asset. And if I could be really direct, I would say that if there's any fundamental structural challenge facing us, it's that in the face of all of those extraordinary assets, the passion and the commitment and the altruism and the knowledge and the expertise, we sometimes wind up being less than the sum of our parts. And so the challenge that I make to myself as I enter the second year, and the challenge that I make to all of us, if you're willing to accept it, is to figure out in this world with so much good and so many people who are trying to help, how we can build a collaboration that is not sitting on top of a foundation of unanimity, that includes strong and vocal and difficult disagreement, but that allows us to be not just the sum of our parts, but greater than the sum of our parts. And once we have built that practice of work, it's time to go and go and go forth and enact the bold and progressive and ambitious policies that this community demands, that this community deserves, and that this world can look to for an example of what true inclusive, responsive, and progressive governance looks like. Thank you very much.